This was supposed to be a normal live TV interview, until one sentence changed everything. A comment referencing Sandra Bullock shocked the studio, the audience froze, and millions watching at home couldn't believe what they were hearing. Keanu Reeves didn't shout. He didn't walk out. Instead, seconds later, he delivered a calm response so powerful that the entire room went silent, and the internet hasn't stopped talking about it since. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Now, let's dive into what really happened. Wait, did she really just say that on live television? For a moment, everything felt perfectly normal. The studio lights were bright, the set looked polished, and the interview had the relaxed energy of a standard promotional appearance. The host smiled, the guests nodded along, and millions of viewers around the world watched casually, expecting nothing more than light conversation and familiar celebrity charm. Then, in a single unexpected moment, the atmosphere shifted. A comment, brief, sharp, and personal, landed in the room with the weight of a dropped glass. It wasn't loud. It wasn't shouted. But it was enough to make people pause. The kind of sentence that makes you wonder if you heard it correctly the first time. For a split second, time seemed to freeze. Before anyone could process what had just been said, social media began reacting in real time. Screens lit up. Messages flew. Clips were already being replayed, paused, and analyzed by viewers trying to understand the tone, the intention, and the meaning behind the words. The audience reacted first. A few gasps. A sudden silence. The host's expression tightened, unsure whether to step in or let the moment pass. Crew members glanced at one another behind the cameras, aware that something unscripted had just happened. And then there was Keanu Reeves. He didn't interrupt. He didn't react impulsively. Sitting there, calm but clearly attentive, he seemed fully aware that the conversation had crossed into unexpected territory. His posture didn't change much, but his focus sharpened. It was the look of someone deciding how to respond, not emotionally, but thoughtfully. What made the moment so powerful wasn't just the comment itself. It was the uncertainty that followed. Viewers could feel it through their screens. Was this a joke that didn't land? A misunderstood remark? Or a line that simply shouldn't have been said in public? This wasn't part of the plan. It wasn't written into any script. And no one in that studio knew what would happen next. Within seconds, what began as a routine interview was on the edge of becoming one of the most discussed live TV moments of the year, not because of shouting or chaos, but because of what everyone was waiting for next. How would Keanu respond? At first, the conversation felt completely harmless. The discussion moved smoothly through familiar territory: art, creativity, personal growth, and the challenges of living life in the public eye. It was the kind of dialogue audiences expect from a polished television interview. Nothing controversial. Nothing tense. Just thoughtful answers and polite exchanges. Then, slowly, the tone shifted. Alexandra Grant leaned forward slightly and made a remark that immediately changed the energy in the room. It wasn't dramatic or aggressive. It wasn't delivered with anger. But it was specific, and that's what made it land differently. The kind of comment that feels casual on the surface, yet carries deeper implications once spoken aloud. By referencing Sandra Bullock, someone widely known as Keanu Reeves' longtime friend and former co-star, the conversation moved from general discussion into personal territory. For many watching, this felt like a line being crossed. Not because of volume or attitude, but because some names carry history, meaning, and emotional weight that don't belong in offhand remarks. Reactions were instant and divided. Some viewers online interpreted the comment as awkward or poorly phrased. Others felt it sounded unnecessary, even uncomfortable, especially given the public nature of the setting. A portion of the audience questioned why a private friendship was being mentioned at all during what was meant to be a professional interview. The studio audience didn't quite know how to respond. There was no laughter, no applause, just a brief, uneasy pause, the kind that only happens when everyone senses a moment has gone off script. The host hesitated, clearly deciding whether to step in or allow the conversation to continue naturally. And then all eyes returned to Keanu. He didn't interrupt. He didn't react with visible frustration. He didn't dismiss the comment or attempt to deflect it immediately. Instead, he stayed still, listening carefully. That restraint stood out. In an industry where quick reactions often dominate, his patience was noticeable. Then he smiled, just slightly. It wasn't a sarcastic smile. It wasn't defensive. It was controlled, measured, and calm. To many viewers, it signaled something important. He wasn't offended in the way people might expect. He wasn't looking to escalate the situation. He was preparing to respond thoughtfully. That small smile shifted the moment once again. The tension didn't disappear, but it transformed. What could have turned into an uncomfortable exchange was now building toward something else entirely. Everyone could feel it. This wasn't about reacting emotionally. It was about choosing how to respond, carefully, publicly, and with intention. And in that pause, the audience realized something powerful was coming next. When Keanu finally spoke, his voice didn't rise. It didn't shake. It didn't rush. It was calm, steady, and unmistakably confident, the kind of tone that immediately signals control rather than confrontation. The studio, which moments earlier felt tense and uncertain, grew noticeably quieter as people leaned in to listen. What stood out first was what he didn't do. He didn't insult anyone in return. He didn't push back aggressively. He didn't try to defend himself with sarcasm or dismiss the moment as unimportant. In a setting where emotional reactions often dominate headlines, his restraint felt almost unexpected. Instead, he chose his words carefully. Keanu began by talking about respect, how conversations in public spaces carry weight, especially when millions are watching. He spoke about friendship, explaining that meaningful relationships don't need to be compared, measured, or turned into talking points for entertainment. His tone remained composed, but his message was clear. Then he addressed the reference directly, without hostility. He reminded the audience that Sandra Bullock wasn't a headline or a topic of discussion. She was a person, a respected artist, and above all, someone he cared about as a friend. By framing it that way, he shifted the focus away from drama and back to human dignity. The moment landed. Then came the line that many viewers would later replay again and again. Keanu said that real strength isn't found in public criticism or subtle jabs, it's found in choosing kindness, especially when it would be easier to react emotionally. He explained that lifting people up, rather than tearing them down, says far more about character than any clever remark ever could. The effect was immediate. The audience didn't clap. They didn't laugh. They didn't interrupt. They went completely silent. That silence wasn't awkward, it was reflective. The kind that fills a room when something meaningful has just been said. Cameras caught subtle shifts in expression around the set as the weight of his words settled in. Alexandra's expression appeared to change. What had seemed confident earlier now looked more reserved, even uncertain. The host attempted to gently guide the conversation forward, but the atmosphere had already changed. Online, clips were spreading in real time. Keanu hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't dominated the conversation forcefully. Yet, through composure and clarity, he had completely taken control of the moment. Not through confrontation, but through principle. And in that quiet studio, it became clear why this response would soon be remembered long after the interview ended. It didn't take hours. It didn't even take minutes. Almost immediately after the broadcast, short clips of the moment began circulating across the internet. Viewers recorded their screens, shared timestamps, and uploaded reactions in real time. By the end of the night, the interview was everywhere. On Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and countless other platforms where conversations move fast and opinions move even faster. Headlines appeared quickly, each framing the moment from a slightly different angle. Some focused on the unexpected tension of a live interview. Others highlighted the calm response that followed. Comment sections filled at a pace few could keep up with, turning the clip into a topic of non-stop discussion. Reactions were mixed, as they often are online. Some viewers questioned whether a personal reference belonged in a public conversation at all. Others argued that the comment had been misunderstood or taken out of context, pointing out how easily tone and intent can be misread in short video clips. Many emphasized the importance of hearing the full exchange before forming strong opinions. Yet despite the differences, one pattern kept appearing across platforms. A large number of viewers agreed on one thing: Keanu Reeves appeared calm, respectful, and composed throughout the moment. Fans praised the way he chose to respond without escalating tension. Some described his reaction as a lesson in emotional awareness, noting how he addressed the situation without placing blame or fueling further controversy. Others pointed out how rare it is to see a public figure slow down a heated moment rather than amplify it, especially during a live broadcast where reactions are often impulsive. Instead of turning the exchange into a spectacle, he redirected it toward a broader message about respect and communication. As the night went on, the content multiplied. Memes began circulating, many focusing on the silence that followed his words. Reaction videos appeared, breaking down body language and tone. Longer analysis clips emerged, discussing why the moment resonated so strongly with audiences across different cultures and age groups. What started as a routine interview had transformed into something larger. Not because of shouting, not because of outrage, but because of how one moment was handled. By the next morning, the clip had become more than entertainment. For many viewers, it represented a broader conversation about boundaries, dignity, and how public figures can navigate uncomfortable situations without turning them into conflict. And just like that, a single exchange on live television became a cultural talking point, one that continued to spread long after the cameras had stopped rolling. Days passed, but the conversation didn't fade. Clips were still being shared. Comments were still being written. And discussions were still unfolding across social media and beyond. What was interesting, though, was how the focus slowly shifted. The headlines and initial reactions began to give way to something deeper, a broader reflection on why that moment resonated with so many people. Beyond the drama, a lesson remained. For many viewers, the exchange became a reminder of why Keanu Reeves has earned a reputation for humility and integrity over the years. Not because he avoids difficult situations, but because of how he chooses to handle them. He didn't try to dominate the conversation. He didn't attempt to win through clever words or public embarrassment. Instead, he chose restraint. And that choice stood out. Whether the original comment was intentional, misunderstood, or simply poorly phrased, the response demonstrated something powerful. Anger is not required to take control of a moment. Loud reactions may grab attention, but calm clarity often leaves a longer impact. Keanu's approach showed that strength doesn't always look like confrontation. Sometimes, it looks like pausing, listening, and responding in a way that doesn't create more damage than the original moment itself. In a public setting, where emotions can escalate quickly, that kind of composure is rare. What made the moment especially meaningful was its simplicity. There were no accusations, no dramatic gestures, no attempt to turn the situation into a spectacle. Just a clear reminder that people are not topics, relationships are not tools, and respect matters, especially when millions are watching. In an entertainment industry driven by noise, outrage, and viral conflict, silence can feel uncomfortable. But in this case, that brief silence, followed by carefully chosen words, spoke louder than any argument could have. It shifted the tone of the conversation without attacking anyone involved. For viewers, the takeaway wasn't about who was right or wrong. It was about how moments of tension can be handled with maturity. About how public figures, despite the pressure, still have the ability to choose kindness. And about how responding without cruelty doesn't make someone weak, it often makes their message stronger. So when people say that Keanu won that moment, they don't mean he defeated someone. They mean he transformed the situation. He showed that you can stand your ground without standing on someone else. That you can be firm without being harsh. And that sometimes, the most powerful response isn't raising your voice, but using it wisely. And that's why, even days later, the moment still matters.